Welcome back to Destination PW, guys. My name is Tony. You can follow me on Twitter at Tango with Ango. And today I kind of want to talk to everybody about some interesting things that have been brought up previously on social media, on the internet, things that people are talking about. You know, this is more than just a news channel. We like to have an open dialogue with you guys, the pro wrestling fans. And pretty much, guys, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you guys think about this whole scenario of a theory of WWE possibly working with All Elite Wrestling. And it's really interesting because the whole narrative so far has been that WWE and AEW are going to be competition, but this was a narrative that was set by the internet wrestling fans. Obviously, they have a lot to do with setting the narrative, and obviously we don't know what's going to change in the pro wrestling world until AEW starts performing on TV. But there's been a lot of stuff. Obviously, a lot of people feel like WWE is scared to release certain superstars because of AEW. There's been all these conversations of WWE offering contract extensions, not releasing anybody from their roster. But that's actually been the opposite. So we know that TJP was released. We know that Hideo Itami was released. We know that, there's a lot of people that have requested releases. And obviously, with a guy like Hideo Itami or TJP, or even for that matter, Ty Dillinger, right, who was recently released. These were names that obviously WWE would not want to go to AEW because at the end of the day, they're still a product of WWE. So this is the interesting thing. Obviously, I'm sure by now you guys have seen the image of Chris Jericho and Triple H celebrating the birthday of Ric Flair. Now, for a lot of people, it's funny because they kind of see this picture and they're like, oh, it's WWE and AEW. And the way that I see it is it's two friends who are in the pro wrestling business. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people who have already taken sides to one of the promotions. So some people have gone in this side and said, we love AEW. People are saying screw WWE, right? And then there's the people that love WWE. So the issue here, and this is why I think it's very interesting that WWE could potentially be working with AEW in some capacity. The theory is that maybe WWE doesn't want AEW to fail. Maybe the idea is WWE is thinking larger than just pro wrestling television. Obviously, years ago, if you looked at Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor and New Japan and all these different companies, there probably wasn't a lot of wrestling content. So I want to say this very clearly for what for you guys to understand what I'm trying to talk about. Okay, the theory has always been there hasn't been enough content, right? Now, originally, the WWE Network was not just supposed to be a WWE streaming subscription service. If anybody remembers correctly, the rumors originally of the WWE Network was to clearly have a professional wrestling network on cable television. That was the first rumor of the WWE Network. Now, if you think about it, back then, WWE really didn't have that option to just have a channel dedicated to them, via Comcast, DirecTV. But instead, they had, Raw and SmackDown, and that was pretty much it. And obviously, they had some small little brands. Now, that's not enough to run a 24/7 cable network. But what is enough now is 2019's pro wrestling industry. Now, obviously, this is all just, speculation and kind of just like fantasy stuff. But if you think about it, WWE is at a point now where they have so much money and so many resources that their streaming subscription service can basically become a new hub for pro wrestling. So whether WWE were to put Ring of Honor and Impact and all these other companies on the network, that's a big question mark. But obviously people see these photos of Chris Jericho and Triple H, and to kind of get back to that, the reason why it's not a big deal, because it's not a big deal to WWE. At the moment, AEW is not a big television company where they are putting a dent into WWE. Now, obviously, 5 years from now, that could be totally different conversation, right? We could be talking about how AEW completely screwed over WWE in the business. They took a lot of shots, but we're still in the early phases of AEW. So now we see these pictures of Chris Jericho and Triple H, and people are like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is crazy. But at the end of But at the end of every day that you guys watch pro wrestling news, you have to realize as time goes on, WWE is really not threatened by AEW. They've released superstars that can easily go to AEW. They've not only done that, but they're taking pictures with people. You have people from WWE commenting on AEW. It's not something that's like banned from them. So yeah, I'm reading a lot of theories about how WWE could be working with AEW, and honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it actually did happen in some capacity. Now, obviously, what's really interesting here is Bruce Pritchard is coming back to WWE as Vince McMahon's right-hand man. This was something that came from Mike Johnson from PW Insider. This was originally reported. Bruce Pritchard will be starting with WWE on Monday Night Raw, the same episode that Chris Jericho. What are we talking about? This is the same episode that Roman Reigns is coming back, and then Ric Flair, who just recently celebrated his birthday, he'll be doing his birthday celebration on Raw. So Bruce Pritchard is going to be Vince McMahon's right-hand man on the creative team, just like it was back in the old days. And this is a really cool thing for WWE, but it's also, again, very interesting that they would put somebody who works with Conrad Thompson, right? We know that he works with Conrad on the Something to Wrestle podcast. We obviously know that he's involved with StarCast. And again, WWE is openly going to have this guy work for them. Now, again, you guys also have to consider WWE's Undertaker is also going to be at StarCast. And you guys also have to understand that they are inducting somebody who works for AEW. They're inducting Billy Gunn, obviously, at the Hall of Fame. So the reason why it's really interesting is because WWE is openly telling you guys, look, this information coming out, right? Like, there's information coming out about AEW and stuff like that. And WWE is posing, these people of WWE are posting pictures with AEW personnel. It's not like there's no acknowledgement there. So in my mind, do I think WWE is going to work with AEW? Honestly, it would not shock me in some capacity. Now, obviously, the whole thing of whether they're going to be competition will be very interesting because, they still haven't been put on TV. But, if you think about it, there's been all this talk about AEW possibly doing one show a month. Maybe that's something that could be on the WWE network. Again, there's no reports. I know a lot of people on the internet, they just like to make up stuff and basically put words in my mouth. But I'm not telling you guys WWE is working with AEW. We're talking about the theory. And I guess it just makes a lot of sense for WWE. Maybe, getting to some of that hardcore audience, this could be the way. Obviously, NXT has kind of done that for WWE, but it's pretty much at this point where NXT is becoming the third brand. Whether you like it or not, whether you see it or not, that's absolutely what's happening. And whether you want to acknowledge that NXT is becoming that brand, it already is. So will WWE work with AEW? Obviously, big question marks are getting raised, but I think it's really, really weird. I don't think WWE really... I feel like WWE was the type of company to possibly not acknowledge AEW, right? And then obviously people talk about the photos of the people in the crowd taking off their AEW shirts. From a lot of people who have actually been at these events, they've seen AEW shirts. And I will also mention, I've watched Raw and SmackDown where there's people wearing AEW shirts front row and they didn't have to take them off. So, universally, it doesn't look like WWE is truly banning AEW. And I'm not saying WWE is working with AEW now, but if AEW gets to that point where they do become a big topic, a big thing in the industry, I could see WWE doing stuff with AEW the same way that people wanted AEW and New Japan to have a working deal, or the same people that also wanted WWE and New Japan to have a working deal. Again, they're two big companies at this point. And the reason why I have to consider AEW a big company is because they got $1 billion owner, and that's exactly what you need in this pro wrestling world. That's exactly why Impact is struggling. Ring of Honor is okay, but they're struggling a little bit too. And, if you have a billionaire who's really into wrestling, I think you're going to have a good chance. And obviously, with WWE working with people who work with AEW, it's not a stupid theory. It's not a stupid theory that people believe there's some sort of capacity in which WWE and AEW are related. And obviously, you know, if WWE really saw them as a threat, you know, that picture with Chris Jericho and Triple H would have never got posted online. You know that these, and again, Chris Jericho probably did that to get people talking, but at the subject matter right here, you know, Bruce Pritchard is working for StarCast. He's doing all these different things. StarCast is not related to WWE. You don't see StarCast being set up for WrestleMania weekend. You see it for AEW events. So, again, it almost makes sense. So, I want to know what you guys think about the possibility of AEW working with WWE. Is it going to happen? I really don't know, guys, but that's the beauty of the discussion. I want to hear your guys' theories, your guys' comments. Please discuss down below. That's what this is for. Again, this was not a news video. We're just talking, and that's the beauty of pro wrestling. There's a lot to talk about, and we're going to do a lot more of that here on the channel, youtube.com/DestinationPW, on our way to 20,000 subscribers. Guys, my name is Tony from DestinationPW.com. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at TangoWithTango. WWE working with AEW. Does it make sense? Can it happen? Will it happen? Will it not happen? Let me know. I'll see you guys next time.